Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to tackle one of the biggest questions out there. What does it actually mean to be alive?
So, how can you tell the difference between something that's alive and something that's not? You might think the answer is super obvious, right? It's all based on stuff we can see. A dog running around, a person talking, a plant getting taller. Those all seem like, yep, clear signs of life. But here's the thing. Those visible signs, they aren't the whole story. Not even close. Think about it. What about a sleeping animal or a plant in the middle of winter? They're not showing much outward movement, but they're absolutely still alive. And that's because the real secret, the true defining feature of life, it's something you can't even see. It's this constant, invisible movement happening at the molecular level.
All right, so what makes something alive? Let's really dive into this and figure out why this invisible action is just so incredibly important. Yeah, the real secret to life is something you can't even see. It's wild, right? If you ask a biologist what truly defines life, they're not going to point to breathing or growing. Nope. They'll point right to this, the relentless, invisible, non-stop movement of molecules. This is the fundamental, under-the-hood work that keeps every single living thing, well, running. Okay, but what's really fascinating is why. Why is all this movement so necessary? Well, it's because life is in this constant epic battle against chaos.
Just think about it for a second. Living organisms are these incredibly well-organized structures. From a tiny single cell with all its little components, all the way up to a complex body with tissues, organs, the whole shebang. They're just marvels of organization.
But here's the catch. The universe, by its very nature, tends towards disorder, towards chaos. The environment is constantly trying to break down these beautifully organized structures. And if that order is lost, well, the organism just isn't alive anymore.
So, to survive this onslaught, every single living thing has to perform constant maintenance. It's this ongoing job of repairing and preserving its own structure just to stay organized and, well, to stay alive. So, how in the world does life manage this enormous, nonstop maintenance job? Well, it uses a team of 4 essential, interconnected processes. This whole maintenance operation relies on 4 core jobs that have to work together perfectly. First, you've got nutrition, which is all about getting fuel. Then, respiration, to create energy from that fuel. Next up is transportation, to deliver all the supplies where they need to go. And finally, excretion, to get rid of the waste. For now, we're going to focus on those first 2 critical steps, getting the fuel and then putting that fuel to work. All right, first up, how do we get our fuel? This is the first job in the workflow, and it's a process we call nutrition. So organisms basically get their fuel in 2 main ways. On one side, you've got the autotrophs. Think of them as the self-feeders, like plants. They are the ultimate do-it-yourselfers, right? They make their own food from simple stuff like sunlight and carbon dioxide. But then you've got the heterotrophs, the other feeders. That's us. We can't make our own food, so we have to go out and consume other organisms to get our energy. For us humans, this whole process happens in what's called the alimentary canal. And really, it's just one long, super sophisticated tube that runs all the way through the body. Each section of this tube is perfectly designed for a specific job in breaking down the food we eat. Digestion kicks off the second food enters our mouth. Our saliva starts breaking down starches right away. Then that food moves down to the stomach, where you have this powerful acid and enzymes that get to work on proteins. But the real main event, where most of the heavy lifting happens, is in the small intestine. And this is absolutely crucial to understanding the whole process. It's here, in the small intestine, with some major help from the liver and pancreas, that all 3 major food groups, we're talking carbs, proteins, and fats, are finally broken down into molecules that are small enough for our bodies to actually absorb and use. Okay, so we've got the fuel. Now let's move on to putting that fuel to work. How is this broken down food converted into actual usable energy for that constant maintenance job we've been talking about? This process is called respiration. And really, it's just a series of chemical reactions that unlocks all that energy stored in our food. This is what allows our body's maintenance crew to finally get to work and do its job. It all kicks off with a simple sugar molecule called glucose. The very first step happens in the cell's cytoplasm, where that 6-carbon glucose molecule gets broken down into a smaller 3-carbon molecule called pyruvate. Now from here, the path it takes all depends on one big question. Is there oxygen available or not?
See, the ultimate goal of respiration is to create this one incredible molecule, ATP. All the energy that gets released from our food is captured and stored in ATP. The best way to think about it is like the universal energy currency of the cell. It's like a tiny, rechargeable battery that powers absolutely everything a cell needs to do.
So if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Being alive is not a passive state. Not at all. It is an incredibly active, nonstop, and super energy-hungry process. It's a constant fight against the natural tendency for everything to just fall apart. Which brings us right back to where we started and leaves us with a really fascinating puzzle. What about viruses? On their own, they're basically inert. They show absolutely zero molecular movement. But the moment they infect a living cell, they spring into action. This completely challenges our definition of life. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where exactly is that line between chemistry and biology?